Even me right now, if I were given the choice, I would definitely not want to work with a local given the circumstances right now. The way things are, I would not go for a local. I would always go for someone from the outside. And over here, like without Bucky, you cannot run a business. That's how it is. Everyone owes someone, something.
I'm curious, are there any specific hot points in Kohima where you see it booming, but no one has sort of seen the potential yet?
Yes. I've identified. I have a map. The secret is there's no secret.
Like, what was the plan for a YouTube channel? Was it always to give financial advice? Was it to be a vlog?
I wanted it to be an integration. Like, of course, finance was one topic that I wanted to do. Then maybe working on your principles, your values and stuff like that, So, yeah.
Well, one of your videos that did go pretty, I guess, one of your more popular videos is the one, Day in the Life of a Small Businessman.
Yeah.
And I think it really showcased how these small mundane things people want to watch.
Yeah.
Like you're just going throughout your life. Why do you think that resonated with the audience so much?
I'm not exactly sure. You know what? You know why I made that video? Because I was doing this search engine optimization. I was like, this sort of title seemed to do pretty well. So I go out every day and then I in the sun, going about trying to sell my products. So why not? Why not?
Okay, so it originally began as like a marketing experiment to market your business.
Yes.
And so when that started, and then when you sort of saw how people were resonating with you, when did you switch it to, okay, maybe I could give financial advice to people who could potentially use it?
I'm not a financial advisor, right? So I wouldn't really call it financial advice, although it might seem so.
Would you call it practical advice because you've done it?
Yeah, that's exactly how I would put it. My channel is all about me trying out different business ideas, regardless of whether it being successful or not. If it's successful, then these are the steps that worked out for me. And then if it's a mistake, then it's going to save you time. Don't do this, right? So yeah, that's...
Well, one of those would be your crypto venture.
Yeah, that was horrible.
To say that you lost a fair bit of money is like an understatement. As you said, when you were documenting your crypto journey, you felt that there was going to be a gap in the business where you could capitalize on, which was the pandemic.
Oh, yes.
And like you say, you didn't want to be a financial advisor. You didn't want to be that person that was sort of telling people what to do.
Yes. No. No.
Yeah. But why did you feel compelled to offer sort of your experiences, your anecdotes? Were you seeing sort of the same mistakes that you kept seeing repeating in Naga youths? So you're like, someone should make a video about this.
Yeah. So a lot of people don't even know about fixed deposits, right? The basics of money. And, even I don't, even that's something that, I'm trying to learn and share what I know. It's not like I'm an expert in this. So, but then I found out that there are a lot of people, a large part of the population that don't even know the basics. So that's why I wanted to educate people, I should say. That's one part. Another part is me being in the construction industry. I meet a lot of retired government employees. They come to me with they have this GPF, right?
It's like a pension fund.
It's like a pension fund, yeah. So at the end, you get your principal with your interest. After they retire, that's the only money that they have. They have no savings. They were depending on that. And then now the cost of construction has gone up so high, they use up all their GPF to build a house. And then forget about passive income, of course they'll get some retirement money and all that, but then stuff like that, things like that I've noticed. So the videos that I make, it's not just for the young, but then for the old as well. A lot of people don't plan out, especially government jobs. It's like a drug that's being fed to them, especially if you're doing a salary job. You forget to plan for your future because you're with the mentality that every month you're going to get a fixed salary. So, even if I were to overspend this month, I'm going to get money next month. So you make that a habit and then you forget about saving and you forget about the future. So, yeah.
Well, absolutely. How many people have we met in our life, mid-30s, mid-40s even, where they still didn't know the idea of budgeting?
Yeah.
Money management skills I didn't learn it. And I would have wanted to learn it when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Imagine trying to teach a 25-year-old how to save his money. By then it's too late almost, right? You want to start them when they're young.
Yeah, exactly.
Investing in real estate, because I know you did that as well.
Yeah.
Or the idea of entrepreneurship. But now we're in a place where a lot of the students feel disenfranchised. They get their bachelor's and they want to go for the MPSC or the UPSC, the government civil jobs. They feel that they have no avenue and they say, well, if I go into entrepreneurship, it might as well just be as bad because I'm taking more risk.
Yes.
So for someone who's coming out, just paint a scenario. Fresh graduate, got his bachelor's. He doesn't know what he or she is going to do. What's his first step into finding where he could capitalize on a market?
The first step would be, I think, fixed deposits, right? It's a good start. I mean, it's not the investment that I would go with, but then it builds the habit of like you saving, and then, you know, like you cultivate the habit. You can start with like real estate investments as well. It's not as simple, you know, like we have this habit, especially in our high school. In our high school, we have this, I don't know whether you guys had that, but we had this exercise. So in that exercise, you'll have like problems, a list of problems. And then you'll have examples as well. So we probably don't do the examples, we do the exercises. And sometimes in the exam, you know, they give you questions from the exercise as well. We are so thorough with the exercise. The fundamentals are the same. You just need to have a little bit of problem solving skills, right? You're using the same formula, you're using the same method. But then people want the exact problem, the one, you know, like they want specific problems. You know, people throw me all these like real life problems, and, you know, like I'm starting a business, I have 1 lakh. What do I do with that? You know, I don't know. You know, there are so many variables, so I can't just give out an advice, you know, just like that, you know.
100%. And exactly like you said, the teacher would write on the blackboard. Most of the time, that would come up on the final exam. And so what is that teaching students? They're not incentivized to work hard. They're just memorizing patterns.
That's it.
Memorize,
it's all a game of
regurgitate.
memory, right? No. Okay.
So he said, if I give you guys another question that I didn't do right now, none of you would be able to do it. And he was 100% right. We knew the fundamentals, but we only knew how to do it in that way. The way that he showed on the blackboard. How sad is that?
I know.
And now it's almost like a factory production line. You have graduates now who have masters, and they can't even do a 9-to-5 office job correctly, which is one of the biggest problems I was talking to. Is some of the entrepreneurs here and the owners, like they're like in their late 20s and they don't even know how to use like Microsoft Word, like the basic technical skills. Did you also see this?
Yes. Especially in the firm that I was working with Richard Bello for a very long time. And then, you know, like we would have interns. It's like, they're not coming to take an internship. They're coming to learn the software, which should have been done during their graduation, right? Before their graduation, sorry. So also talking about the failure part, which I just want to mention before I forget. If there were 2 books right in front of you right now, and then one is titled How to Make Money, and it's a solid, foolproof plan in that book. And say there's another book titled 10 Mistakes to Avoid if you want to make money. And then let's say you only have enough money to buy one. Which one would you buy?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a hard question. For me, the safety, the security part of me, I would 100% go for How to Make Money.
How to Make Money, yeah. For me, I would choose the one with the mistakes, because the first one shows you how to make money, and then the second one shows you how to keep it, right?
Wait, so then wouldn't they be complementary to each other then?
That's why. My best advice here would be to make enough money and buy both the books, right?
So whatever book you choose, you're on the right path anyway.
Yeah. You get to understand the concept of time is money, right? So, I mean, that's what I'm trying to do in my videos as well. If I show you the mistakes that I do, and then things that you can avoid, and then the things that are working out for me, then it's going to save you a lot of time, and which translates to money, right?
And it's something that I feel like I didn't appreciate, which was time. You know, you're just spending time chilling around. You don't realize that at a certain point, those mistakes don't go unnoticed anymore because you're older now. And if you could look back in your 20s, if you can look back at some of your mistakes, what would be sort of your top 3 pitfalls to avoid?
Let me say one that I'm still learning. I thought, you know, let me be smart, and then let me, you know, before I start anything, let me go out and meet all the successful entrepreneurs, the businessmen. I went to like random people, you know, like I went knocking on their doors, and then I introduced myself, you know, like I was an idiot, but then, you know, that was,
Well, you talked about how you went into your principal's office and asked him for a part-time job, and he gave it to you.
I still think about it, and then I don't know what I was thinking, you know. So that the same principle I applied after I came back home as well. So I went to different business people, asked for their advice so that, you know, like I would avoid those mistakes. I was trying my best to avoid mistakes. Everyone had their own personal experiences to share, but then one thing in common was do not expand too quickly. Now that's a lesson that that it's very hard for me to learn, because I have that itch, the kujli, right, to like keep moving fast. So I think in almost all my ventures I could not learn, or even right now that's something I still struggle with.
Is it because you want to achieve the idea of success very quickly?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I like to do things quickly. Like like I don't like being slow. So
you want to branch out.
Yeah. I wanted to branch out and everything like that, right? So one general rule I think would apply is like, make sure that your business plan can run on autopilot first. Make sure that it does not require, or at least a minimum input from you. Maybe then you can start thinking about like expanding and all that. Yeah. So that's one big lesson that I learned. Yeah.
What about trusting people? That is in a business where right now we see it all the time. I hear stories of brothers going at each other.
Yeah.
Just because of land disputes. And now in business, it's the same thing. Are you someone that has done it solo your entire life? Do you feel like an entrepreneur can do it solo, or do you need someone?
Obviously, a team is very, very important. There are some things that you can do solo as well. Most of the things that I've done, I required a team. One time I got so frustrated with my team that I started googling about like automation and how to build a robot and then so like, and then I got inspired by Japan. They have like now they have like waiters that they have replaced it with robots and stuff. So I was like fascinated, and I was just thinking, even to the extent of like I didn't know how to do it, but then I was thinking like how do I build this robot, or how do I import it or something like that. I mean, it's stupid if you think about it now. Yeah, numbers are very easy to predict. Human emotion, that's the hardest. You cannot predict. But then that has also been a very good lesson for me. There was this one time where I let go of all my employees. All I wanted was A players, right? I just wanted A players on my team. And so I was just scouting for people, looking for people. But then we are in such a society where, it's very hard to find A players, So that in a way also taught me the lesson that you have to do with what you have. Your worst employee can be your best employee. I was trying to put the blame on the employees, but then, the problem turns out to be me, right? Yeah. I don't know how to manage them. I don't know how to that was a big learning curve for me as well. Yeah.
Well, that's what I think it comes down to, is understanding your employees.
Yeah.
When I look at a company, when I look at, a business that I work for, I'm like, what's your employee turnover rate? Because that shows me how well the employee is satisfied and what management is doing.
Yeah.
Because people don't quit jobs. People quit management.
Yeah, right.
My first job ever was a window cleaner. I was a window cleaner for 2 summers.
Right.
And that job was hard. It was 10 hours of working out in the sun, but it was made better by the fact that I had an amazing manager and I had an amazing working set of employees and coworkers. That made it all the way better. And I did that for 2 years, and I was very happy to do that. KFC and Taco Bell, you're just standing there. You're not doing anything. Nowhere near the physical push that window cleaning was doing. But the management sucked so bad that I wanted to quit the first month. So that can put a big effect on you.
Right.
100%.
Right. Yeah.
And now when we're going into a place, and I've heard this quite a lot. I don't know if you've heard this, but we've gotten to a point where the locals here, the local business people here, they don't want to hire local anymore. They want to hire outside. They want to outsource. That's not a good look.
Yeah. Every place has the complaint of like their locals being lazy. I'm not sure whether you experience that in America, but yeah, I've seen that a lot. They always have this thing, like it's very common. Like, our locals are so lazy. The immigrants, they're taking over the jobs. And
yeah,
like
that's a good point.
Yeah, right. So everyone's complaining about our local population being lazy, and then how people who come from the outside, they are more hardworking. They're achieving, So I don't know. Even me right now, if I were given the choice, I would not go for a local. I don't want to be two-faced here. So I would definitely not want to work with a local given the circumstances right now. It's not a permanent thing, but then the way things are right now, I would not go for a local. I would always obviously go for someone from the outside, because they're more determined, they're more hungry, they have no problem if you scold them and stuff like that. I've worked with so many locals. It's very hard to teach our local group as well. Like you say something a little, the slight change in tone, and then and then they won't come the next day, stuff like that. It's really hard to work with that kind of attitude. So yeah.
Right. Well, if I'm a employer, that tells me that you're not willing to grow.
Yeah.
And so that means that you have no place in my business.
You know what? On that, I would like to add something as well. For me, I would say constructive or not, you should just take it. Because like I've worked at the bottom, I've worked at the top as well. So regardless of whether you have the right or whether it's your fault or not, try not to complain. I mean, that's the best lesson that I would want to give people. The boss will also complain about the employees will complain about the boss, whatever the case is. Try not to complain. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there.
Well, let me add on to that.
Yeah.
Try not to complain for sure. But if you have to complain, do not complain to your coworkers, for the love of God.
Yeah,
this happens all the time.
Try not to share that. Yeah.
Please keep it to yourself.
Yeah.
The amount of times where I've been to work and I've met with like middle-aged coworkers, they have their own personal life.
Right.
You know, they're going through a divorce and they bring that baggage into their business life. It's so depressing.
Yeah.
And even their hatred of management, they're always complaining all the time. It really does bring down the mood of a lot of the people, especially impressionable young kids that you're employing.
Right. So especially if you are an entrepreneur, we are supposed to be problem solvers, right? So that's the condition that you have been given. So you try to figure out a way to solve it or try to find a way out of it, you know, something like that. So complaining is not going to get you anywhere. So yeah, definitely, yeah.
When you talk about the frustrations, look, that's a hard pill to swallow. The fact that you straight up just said, look, as of now, I'm not going to hire local.
We all have a heart to like work with our locals, right? With our own people. But then when the numbers are not making sense in business, especially, right? You don't have any choice but to like give the job to someone who's going to bring in the numbers.
And who's going to do it for cheaper,
yeah,
too.
He's going to do it for cheaper. Yeah, definitely. So the problem is with locals, I think, you know, this is a very big topic because it all goes back to schooling, to parenting. If I were to point things out, then, you know, it'll just be me making a list of flaws. So...
Well, I'm more curious in your observations because your reality could be very well different from what other people see. You know, so another guy over there might love hiring locals, you know, and he hates like people outside. He doesn't want to outsource.
I'm yet to meet that kind of person here. Yeah, but yeah.
But from your own observations and from your own experiences that you've had, what were sort of the obstacles that you had to overcome with them, or not at all?
So the thing is, like, most of us they haven't experienced the corporate world, right? They haven't. No, I myself have not experienced the corporate world because I graduated and then came back and then I worked straight. But then my motivation was different. We'll talk about it later. So the thing is, like, there's no hierarchy system. Everyone wants to be the boss. Everyone wants to be the leader, right? There are very few followers. In order to be the leader, you need to get your hands dirty, right, first, and then you earn the right to be a leader, to teach people, so we don't want to go through that phase. And also coming to parenting, okay, let's make a list then. People want to achieve really quick, like myself.
They want the superstar status before they become a rookie.
They want the status without any experience. The idea of work, that hierarchy chain, right? That that's supposed to be there in every business and any kind of work. That idea is totally non-existent. So that's one major thing that I find. I mean, there's so many, but then I mean, we can talk about like them, you know, coming and then.
Well, you mentioned one in one of your videos, and it perfectly encompasses what you're talking about when it comes to hierarchy. Because out there in the West, the kids, the moment they reach working age, 16, 15, they're already working. They're working at a McDonald's, they're working at a coffee shop, whatever they way to get money. And we can look at that and say, well, their parents don't care. But I look at that as, well, their parents do care because they care about them buying their own things. My girlfriend at the time, she had to buy a car from her own dad for $4,000. The idea of that happening here in Nagaland is unheard of. And the crazy thing is the parents will be ridiculed, not the kid. And you mentioned in your video to clean a septic tank is like 10,000 rupees. And within 10 jobs, you're a lakpati. I'd do that. 10,000. Right. Maybe not 5,000, but I'd do 10. Damn sure I would. Money is money. I think people associate those kind of jobs wrongly, I think. They associate it with their dignity. They say, if I do this, then people will look down on me. Not if I do this, I'm learning. Which is the opposite of what you should really be thinking.
So it all, in a way, it all comes down to parenting again. My parents as well, to a certain level, and then a lot of people out there, and most of us, they had to face hard times. Our parents, they try to not let us experience the same hardship that they went through. So they try to make our lives easy. I mean, that's the wrong kind of love that you're trying to give your kids. They do everything for us, and in the end, we end up not knowing anything. And so the whole idea of working hard or the dignity of labor, stuff like that, it's missing in a lot of us. I think I would pinpoint it to that. Yeah.
At its core?
At its core, yeah.
That's unfortunate. Where do you start? You have to start from the next generation now, right? You have to... We teach them the value of money. We teach them the value of hard work.
You know how I view our generation right now? We realize what the problem is, right? If you know the problem, then you can come up with a solution as well. Because if you don't know the problem, how can you come up with a solution? Now we know the problem. Our parents could have done better, but then there's no point like putting that, playing the game here. You know, they did the best they could. It was unfortunate, but this is how it is. Now I see our generation as, you know, those back then, I don't know the year, but then the muzzle loading guns. You know? Yeah, that kind of warfare.
That's like during the American Civil War.
The American Civil War. That time, right?
The muskets, right?
Yeah, the muskets. Yeah. We here I know it like we call it muzzle loading. That's what everyone says. So I used to think there are movies on the American Civil War and all that, right? During that era, right? So I used to think like, who gets to be in the front line? I mean, they take turns to shoot each other, right? So who the hell wants to be in the front line? I'm sure they get drafted, and it's not really their choice, you know. Our generation, I see our generation as like the vanguard, right? We are the front line. We I don't know whether we're gonna make it, but you know, like we're gonna be the thing that we cut meat on. Like Angami, it's called like sakra or something. So we're that generation, right? We're that thing, and then you know, like, we're the front line. You know, we're gonna get shot. We're gonna die. So we're basically the vanguards. That's how I see our generation. We might not live the best of our lives, but then we know what the problem is. So we need to be able to like create that platform that was missing, the things that we were not taught, and then try to create a better future for our younger generation. So yeah, that's something that I always used to think, you know, like us being in the front line and then get ready to die, you know.
Yeah, so like the fastest ones who reload are the ones that go on.
Yeah. Something like that, you know.
I would put a little bit. I don't even say a little bit. I'll put a good percentage on the education system, like what we talked about before. Yeah. And I'll tell you exactly why. Yeah. When I was studying here in Nagaland, the idea of self-thinking, critical thinking, critical analysis, those were alien to me. So I left Nagaland and I went into a boarding school, a British boarding school. Yeah. When I was like 15 or 16. Oh. When I left and I went to this new school, I was shocked at how backwards I was compared to the rest of my classmates. Because
what made you feel backward?
When the teacher asked a question to the class, they weren't raising their hands. They were shouting out the answers. They were proactive. You know, the idea of sharing ideas, whether it was right or wrong. So that fear was placed in me. Like, let me just be in my own shell. Don't raise your hand. Don't try to attract attention to yourself. It's a very Asian thing too. But when I went to this new school, you had kids who were shouting out the answers. They were raising their hands, whether it was getting it wrong or not. They were at least attempting it. And that's what I lacked. I didn't even want to attempt. I didn't even want to take a step into even knowing what the answer was. And when the teacher picked on me, he was like, Jonathan, what do you think? I was like, I froze, which was even worse than not giving an answer at all. And I realized very quickly that if I didn't step up my game, if I didn't start being proactive in the way that I learned, not only was I going to be held back in the rest of the class, I was going to get kicked out. I almost failed my first year because a lot of our studies and a lot of our syllabus was all about outside of the box thinking. None of the questions that they would do on the board ever would come up on the final exam. This was very different than the life that I had in Nagaland. And now I'm like, whoa, hold on. I was mad at the teachers. Like, it's on the board. Why isn't that on the final exam? Yeah. It engineered my mind to think in this way, to be almost like a factory worker, you know, to walk into a straight line. Whereas they were teaching me, look, there's 1,000 different ways you can solve a problem. You just have to understand that there are these ways. And slowly but surely, I started finding my own way. But I look back and I think I was blessed. I was lucky to have that opportunity. How many people aren't? And they're coming straight out of those factory assembly lines.
Yeah, to add to that as well, like even the way we talk, no one ever dreams of like going up on stage and then like giving writing the answer or like giving a speech or something. We would shy away from that. That's the culture, and then that would actually be seen as modest. That's the reason why we also find it very hard to articulate. Even me, you know, like I find it very hard to articulate my thoughts. I have it in my thoughts, but then, you know, it's very hard for me to say it out, to have that structure and then, you know, stuff like that. So yeah, that's also one side effect that, you know.
The other side I see also is like how it damages relationships.
Oh yeah, that's a major one. Yeah, even to the extent of like hugging people, open to like hugging. That's like very very foreign to them. You know, like there's always this gap between father and son. Did you ever notice? You know, like the father and the son, they don't really talk a lot, but then if it's the son's friend, then they're actually like quite friendly to them.
Yeah, that's actually a very good funny, observation. Right? Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So they're more open to strangers than, you know, to their own sons, because like they haven't cultivated that thing. There's this communication gap between them, right?
I've seen that quite a bit. They don't even talk to each other. They walk into the same room. The son doesn't even like bat an eye to the dad, and it's like, wait, but you're living in the same house. You don't greet each other. This is kind of weird.
Yeah. That's the thing, you know, like we tend to treat our guests better than our own family members, right? Like, yeah.
Do you think that also comes down to the way we feel that our own parents are our biggest obstacles?
Like how we were discussing that the gap between like the children and the parent, that was always there. Now that I know better, now I can't really put that blame on like my dad never initiated that, my mom never hugged me, so I have to be like bitter and stuff. Now, you know, like I know better, so I have to do better, right? So that's the kind of principle that I try to go live with. My mom, she would also not initiate conversations. I mean, at least like those deep conversations, right? So that's something, you know, I just bring it up very casually, and then, you know, we discuss. And then when one party does that, one party is vulnerable, you know, the other party also tends to like, share. So
100%. Someone has to take that first step. And I think sometimes when we look at our parents, we expect them to do everything, even take that first step.
Yeah.
But then I realized, you know, my dad and my mom, they got problems just like anyone else.
Yeah.
Why shouldn't I take the first step? I don't want to talk for everyone, but I think in some ways you'll be surprised at how well you'd be reciprocated.
I guarantee, you'll be surprised. Yeah, there are so many problems in our society, obviously, right? You have this the educational system, or the parents issue, you know, our own generation. There are so many issues. But then one way to look at it is like, especially if you're being an entrepreneur, you, like I was mentioning, you have to be in that mentality where you need to learn the game. Don't complain. Learn the game. That is a very good indicator that you're going to succeed. Be it like whatever, you know. Because like one reason why I hate attending meetings, especially in my line of work, it starts with the problem first. Everyone starts with the problem. No one really comes up with a solution. No, let's do this, let's do that, you know. But then everyone's like complaining. No one has really thought about the solution for it. They can give suggestions, of course, but then it's not really a solution. They just want to like, maybe for the sake of like sounding smart or something. I don't know. Overall, try to be a problem solver. Do not complain. Yeah, I think that's,
Well, I think you encompassed it like perfectly.
Yeah.
How much of perspective and positive thinking goes into becoming a successful entrepreneur? Where's the line between being positive, being negative, and being pragmatic?
Yeah. People being snowflakes, basically. So you need to develop a thick skin. I think that's how I would summarize. Yeah.
Well, do you think we're going into that direction, that snowflake direction? Especially now of political correctness, we have such ridiculous terms like mansplaining, manspreading.
Yeah.
Is this a trend that's just going to keep on going?
Yeah, I think it's going to grow.
So right now, our life is only getting easier. Now with artificial intelligence, now with ChatGPT, Sora just came out. Where's the incentive to work hard now?
Have you heard of this experiment? I think it was called Universe 25. Universe 25. Have you heard of it?
No.
Yeah, so they built this utopia for mice to like live. There was enough food provided, there was enough drinking water, there was enough places to sleep and stuff. You know, they designed it in such a way. One thing they observed was now they had nothing to do. Everything was like easily available to them. That led to the population rising drastically. That led to the males getting asexual.
Getting asexual?
Yeah. Not interested anymore. Yeah.
What do you think that is? No, because they had an abundance of options?
They have they saw a sign in increased aggression. It's a really nice instrument. You should check it out on YouTube. Yeah. So
you know what that reminds me of? Another experiment is the Stanford prison experiment. Yeah. It's kind of the same thing. Is where you put people in a position of power, and then they split. I think a group of 24 people. 12 of them were put as prisoners, and the other 12 was put as prisoner guards. And they found out that once these students who were placed as guards, once they were given this position of power in this experiment, they started abusing it. They started beating up the prisoners. They started antagonizing them. And then the students who were prisoners, started to take submissive roles. So it's very interesting how when you put society into a box, how much...
So just coming back to that Universe 25, I think we can take a lot away from that as well. It might not...
Too much sex is bad?
No, too much of like comfort is bad. That's the thing we're being fed right now. There's no pain. There's no effort. There's no struggle compared to how we were hundreds of years. I love movies, by the way. There was this movie called The Way Back. It's about this Polish soldier that gets imprisoned in Siberia. The fencing and all, it's not even constructed well. They're just like some barbed wires and some posts and all, because that was not the prison. The prison was the whole desert, and especially during winter, the environment was the prison, right? So if you want to try escaping, please go ahead. You're not going to survive anyway, right? So first, when he comes to the prison, he befriends this guy who talks about escaping. They became friends. They start planning this escape. Now he befriends another guy, an American guy, and the American guy tells him that this is what the other guy who's always like planning, scheming to escape. He always does that to newcomers. He's like leeching off the excitement from the newcomers,
giving them false hope.
And then when they get excited, I don't know what, but then it's kind of sick. But then
he's like a masochist.
Yeah, sort of. So the same thing over here, even in our society. Like a lot of people talk, and then that's what feeds them. That's what makes them happy. That's what even keeps them alive, I guess. Like they keep talking about ideas and then zero execution. That was the perfect example for that. Now, this guy, they escape. I won't tell you the whole story, but then I think they walk about like 6,000 kilometers, more than that.
Is this a true story?
Yes, I believe it is a true story. Yeah, and then all the way to India. But then before they reach India, they have to cross the Himalayas, right? They'll end up in Nepal, I think. Finally, they get rest there, and then the main protagonist, like he wants to move on, but then the rest of the group, they don't want to move on anymore because like there's a storm that's coming. The locals, they tell them that it's better you wait for the storm to pass so that it's easier for you. But then the protagonist, the next day he leaves because his reason was if we stop now, we're going to give in to exhaustion. That's something that has really inspired me. And then I would like to add exhaustion and comfort. I'm going everywhere. I hope that's okay. Yeah. So you might call me delusional, but then my parents, my mom, my dad expired, but then I have my mom. So she lives a pretty good life, a very comfortable life. Not very rich, but then she's very comfortable, right? So, and then I could lay back and then use that as a safety net and then say, I'm going to inherit all this, like the family fortune anyway. So, what's the point of me working? So I just put myself in a state where I tell myself, I've tricked myself into believing that,
you're broke.
Yeah, I'm broke. Oh man, what am I going to do? What am I going to eat tomorrow? So yeah, I just put myself in that state constantly, and so that, I keep pushing myself. It's almost like I'm preparing for something big that's coming. I don't know. I just have a feeling. You might, don't call me a mystic for that, but then yeah, so
with like a Armageddon or
a mini Armageddon maybe. Yeah, so like the way things are heading right now, 20 lakh population, the government sector is like 1.3 something lakhs. There are that many government jobs. One person sustaining 19-20 people. One government job sustaining that many people. Obviously, this is not sustainable. Same theory, it's related to that Universe 25 as well. With comfort and with everything coming easy, we're not heading the right way.
If we don't change anything, and if we continue on to this path, what are we looking at?
We're looking at violence, crime. People are going to need something to survive on, right? So when you have nothing, when you have no jobs, it's just the government jobs, and the population keeps increasing. What's going to happen? People are for survival. People can kill. You can imagine what's waiting for us.
I do understand that when you live in a place of comfort, but is that a human thing? When we realize that everything is going too good, when we live in a utopia,
yes,
we tend to rebel. The implication was that us as humans, we're always searching for pain in our subconscious mind. We always want chaos. We want unpredictability.
Yeah.
How true do you think that is in relation to Universe 25? Is that we are incapable of building a utopia?
I think eventually, the universe obviously has a way of resetting things, right? There will always be people that will come up and then change the system, stuff like that. So the situation right now, I don't know how people take this, but then even the situation that we're in right now, people talk about unemployment, government jobs, the entrepreneurship, all that thing, the political scene that we have here in Ireland, I don't really worry much, about that. It's hardly been like 100 plus minus years that we came out of the jungle, and then now we've been introduced to the modern civilization. People have been doing it for thousands of years. So yeah, we're just getting used to it. And then we are the backbenchers. That's a tag that we get from the older generation, like being lazy, being not productive, because like the whole idea of being successful in life is a government job. Obviously over here it circles around that, right? I've met so many people who are doing their own stuff, finding their own way, and it's so motivating for me to receive messages as well. There are these 18, 19, 20 year olds, they're worried about money. I mean, that's where it starts, right? How do I earn? I'm worried about this thing. I'm an orphan. I have like one leg with me now. I want to learn how to invest that, it starts with that curiosity, right? So I'm really happy about like how this generation is actually performing. And so
100%. And I think a lot of that is due to some of the references that we're seeing. A great example of someone like that, Young Fo. He is outwardly out there, and he's someone that I think most people can relate to. He came from humble beginnings, and he made it to a point where he is now.
Yeah.
And that's why he's so vocal about his displeasurement with the economy, with the government, because he knows that there can be so much good that can be done in that. And the fact that you said, like, you're not a financial advisor, but the fact that people are sending you messages and thanking you.
Yeah.
Do you think a part of the reason why you were able to take risks, do you think subconsciously it was because you knew that you had a safety net? I know we said that you purposely put yourself in a frame of mind that you don't have money.
Yeah.
Most people, I don't think, have that liberty or that luxury. Most people are living that life.
The reason why I'm able to even do this is because I don't have to worry about like paying the rent. I don't have to worry about paying the water bill. I don't have those worries. And that itself is also a very big privilege. So I don't know how the Western world will view this, but then, that's how it is over here. Like we live with our parents. That's one very big privilege that I have. And that's the privilege I think most of us have as well. So, yeah.
Well, another big privilege that you have, and I'm not trying to like put you to the fire here, but
no, I would want you to, please.
But like a big privilege that I don't think a lot of people would have is having the liberty to lose almost 1 CR and living to tell the tale. I don't think most people can even dream of making 1 CR.
Yeah, watch my videos.
Subscribe to my channel.
Subscribe and like and share. Yeah. So I mean, there was this one message that I received, like, where did you get your initial investment, family wealth, generation wealth? He was mentioning all those stuff. But then, my man, I've been working for like more than 10 years now, like if you can't even have like 3, 4, 5 lakhs saved in that 10 years, I think you should
really reevaluate your life.
Reevaluate your life. And there's this meme, right? Why are all vampires always so rich? If you've been alive for centuries and you're not rich, then you better step into the sun, so, something like that, right? Yeah. So it's it has to do with like cherry picking as well. Like people watch the latest video and then they think like, I have money and then I'm investing, but I'm trying to show the whole journey from like how I start from 3 lakhs,
Is that just a question of strong conviction that you feel like this is going to go the right way?
I would say stupidity and being brave with that. I mean, because if you're stupid, you're kind of brave. So when I first started, I didn't really think about the risk and, like how it's going to end up. I didn't do any of that kind of calculation, right? I just did what I wanted to do and then,
just worked out.
Kind of worked out sort of thing. Yeah. So initially when I first started that 10 business, I took a loan for my mom. Yeah. Which I repaid afterwards. So for some people, it comes early, but then for me, it came later. Like now I know how to make money without money. You don't need a sob story to be successful or, you don't need that kind of thing. I mean, you could have been, what about people who are born into wealth, right? What about them? Like
we just don't hear about them.
Yeah. We just don't hear about them. Plus, It's not like they have to like go to the basics and then end up in the streets and then start from there. I mean, if you want to do that experiment, sure, you're welcome. But then, you know, you don't have to start there, right? They already have an advantage. So good for them, right? Something like that. So yeah.
Well, it goes back to what you were saying before. You have to play the cards that you're dealt.
Yeah. So my belief is, you know, like you have been put in that situation wherever you are, the way you are, the way you look, the way your parents are. We've all been put in different conditions because like we have to learn a certain kind of lesson that here in life. I mean, that's the whole purpose in life. That's what I believe. And in order to learn that these are the circumstances that you had to be born in. In the end, if you really think about the whole life thing, what are we here for? What is the whole purpose in life? You know, I mean, obviously physical wealth, all that stuff doesn't matter. So it comes down to like experience and learning. That's how I see things.
Well, I think that's why people resonate with your videos a lot. At the end of the day, when they're watching some kid from the US and he's like building up his portfolio, they're like, that's great for him, but that's not my day-to-day reality. So when they see you, someone who, for the most part, is your average journeyman, who is suffering through the same things as them, you've made your fair share of mistakes. And I think when people, they look at that, they look at what you've done, they have a reference to look back at.
Right.
Because as an entrepreneur should, I think you tapped into a market where a lot of people need this sort of advice.
I don't want to make the whole channel about just money, right? Just finance. I want to like share things, the way we see things, the way we see our lives, you know, those are things I want to share. One big thing, especially when later I came to realize that I was the problem, you know, like when I get angry with people or, you know, my employees, myself, people who are working with me, people who I work with, if I were to take this concept of right and wrong and then make my judgment based on that, if God were to do that as well, you know, we'd all be burning in hellfire. That's how I see things. And, you know, like, that is also an anchor for me to like come back to the center and then, you know, like reevaluate how I treat people, how I see situations, stuff like that, you know.
Well, your perspective on things, it's one of the big catalysts for your movement now. It's your WAGME. We all gonna make money.
We all gonna make it.
Oh, we all gonna make it. As an entrepreneur, the idea is you keep solving problems and potentially you keep solving bigger and bigger problems. When you listen to people like Elon Musk talk, they're always thinking all the time. They have like 3 hours, 4 hours worth of sleep. You work Monday through Sunday, so you barely have any sleep either. And it's almost like if they don't work, they fall into like some deep depression.
Some people are just programmed that way, you know. This friend of mine who was telling me, you know, his uncle, he's very rich now, but then, you know, even now, like he's in his 60s, I think, he keeps working. The whole family is worried about his health and, you know, like he's overworking, stuff like that. But then that's how he's programmed. Hey, if that makes you happy, sure, go for it,
Well, going back to one of the older money-making schemes, and this is something that when I was growing up, grandparents, my father, they told me this all the time: real estate, invest in real estate. You invested in real estate. You invested in a land actually like not far from here, right?
Not far from here.
It's like 10, 15 minutes away. The idea of real estate as gold, is that still relevant today in Nagaland?
Yeah, definitely. Watch the video, you know, it makes sense. Financially, it makes sense. The numbers make sense. There's so much demand. Everyone's trying to come to the capital. It's really, really hard to find rent over here in Kohima. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
Okay. So like, it's very, very hard to find rents. If you construct a house, then before the foundation is laid, people coming and then they ask for so which is a very good indicator that, you know, like this is there's a loophole. There's a market in the, you know.
Do you fear that when you give out like these tips and these sort of like behind the scenes, these tips and tricks on how to make money, do you think it's almost going to catapult into now like every house I'm going to see is like a Tina house and they're trying to rent it out for like 6K.
Right. So,
is that what you're trying to achieve?
That could happen, but then that's just one, right? The tiny house concept is just one. So, in fact, we're in the process of making a lot of videos right now. So, I'll be experimenting with a lot of other business ideas as well. So, I'll be like sharing those stuff, you know, like, so,
Well, this was my worry, and this is why I asked that, is because taking back to the education where we say like when we're taught one way, we only go that way. We tend to not navigate and innovate from an idea. The idea is to expand on that idea, not to follow it to a textbook perfection. I mean, I understand it makes money, but now if everyone's following the same thing, the market is just going to be saturated again. It's the same thing that's happened with the Airbnbs here now. What do you think of that phenomenon? Do you hopefully people will catch on, or is it just going to be a saturated market every time you suggest like a brilliant idea?
So I talk on that topic as well about like the market being saturated, right? So trying to form an ecosystem. That's the idea that I'm trying to put out. If you started an Airbnb, I could be the supplier for your soap, shampoo, stuff like that, and then someone can be like someone who's driving a taxi can like it can link up with the Airbnb and then bring the passengers in and then stuff. Things like that. We can build an ecosystem within ourselves. So the whole idea is not to replicate the idea, but then like to form an ecosystem with amongst us, Yeah, basically that's the idea that I'm trying to like put out, Yeah.
There's this, I don't know, it's going viral right now on Instagram. There's this Chinese girl. Her name is Stephanie something. I know her because she comes up on my recommended all the time. Stephanie Yun or something. Yeah. And she's a real estate agent for tiny houses. Do you know what I'm trying to get at? It's like these tiny homes, portable homes that you can build up.
Right.
What do you think about the practicality of a home like that? And it's very cheap. It's about $10,000 to $20,000.
On that, I'm in constructions, right? So right now we're introducing this thing called prefabricated structures. You can build a G+1 ground floor and first floor, a normal size, say 50 by 30, something like that, in under a month's time. Yeah.
Wow.
So versus RCC, it will take like a year, 1.5 year, stuff like that. So that's where time is money, right? So we're trying to introduce that as well. So coming back to your question about like how practical that is, I think it is very practical because we're also leaning towards that as well, especially for farmhouses and all that stuff. And also looking at the real estate situation here. If you were to post like Tina houses and all, people would comment like, who would live there? But we don't realize that most of the population, we're very poor. And then there's a very high demand for Tina houses, stuff like that. And then coming to prefabricated houses, that comes in between Tina house and RCC. You can build that at half the cost of RCC.
But it would cost more than a Tina house.
It will cost more than a Tina house, yeah.
Because the Tina house, we were saying approximately 30 to 50 years.
Yeah. That can give you 75 years.
It'll give you 75?
Yeah.
What's the startup cost for something like that?
It's 0.
Really? Yeah. So if a potential investor or someone who wanted to buy a home like that, what would their down payment be?
Oh, in terms of numbers? Yeah, that depends on the size of the house, the design of the house and all.
Let's call it a one-story. One-story house, a bungalow. And a bungalow, I don't know, like on average, how many square feet it is.
I mean, that depends on the room sizes and all that. But then roughly 4,000 square feet.
Okay, let's keep it that. 4,000 square feet, one floor. What's sort of the cost?
Okay, one floor. One floor would be just about 1,500 square feet. That's good enough. Yeah, that's a good size.
That's good enough. And that could fit 2 to 3 people.
Yeah.
What's sort of the payment plan for that?
A rough 30 by 50, which is about 1,500 square feet. We should be able to do that within 20-25 lakhs.
20-25 lakhs. Whereas the average RCC house is 50.
Yeah, 35-40.
35-40.
Yeah, it can go up to 50 as well. Yeah.
And land price here is even more expensive.
Yeah.
So you could almost double that.
Land prices here cost anywhere from 800 square feet to 3,000 square feet. That's the average range, right? But then there are places where it's way higher, and there are places where it's lower as well. Like for example, I bought one in Sikazo, right? And I paid 3.5 lakhs for a 30 by 50 area land.
That's a good deal.
Yeah, very, very good deal.
That guy did not know what he was negotiating.
Yeah. So no, I mean, that's how it is. You need to do your research, which is why, like you need to put in time. Yeah.
I'm curious, are there any specific hot points in Kohima where you see it booming, but no one has sort of seen the potential yet?
Yes. I've identified, I have a map. Yeah. I link up with all these brokers and, so I get the information from them and then, I go check it out and then, I do my own survey and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm always on the lookout,
Would you care to share some of that? Hey, this guy's honest, but not too honest.
Maybe after this podcast.
Next video. Yeah. So when you did this, just so I get this absolutely correct, you went from 0.
Yeah, that's where I described the different avenues on where you can without having any money. The best was, I think, tuitions, which I started with. You're not paying rent, you're not paying for food, you're not paying for electricity. That's 100% saving for you, right?
What was that like? You said that you learned grade 5, 6, and 7 math and science.
Yeah, right, yeah. So I was really weak in the basics. as well. So I thought like people were always approaching me, like to get tuitions. That's why I took those class 8, 9, 10 textbooks, especially maths and science. And then I started studying them. Yeah, all over the whole textbook.
Did you find it easier or harder?
Yeah, very, very easy. Yeah.
Were you almost in shock? Like, oh my God, like back when I was in school, I thought this was hard.
I was in either. I could have topped this. You know what? Yeah. I was in shock. Yeah, definitely. So the thing is, like, while giving out tuitions, I came to realize that the same thing, going back to the example of that, like we know the exercise, but we don't know the examples. And when an out of the box question is asked, we are like clueless, stuff like that. So that all comes down to us not understanding what the question even means. Like, for example, in maths, like, do we understand what a variable and a constant is? Those are very, very basic, okay? And that should have been taught like in class 3, 4, 5. People don't know. There are terms like cross multiplication, stuff like that, I'm showing off. Yeah. So we do things like we discussed earlier, out of memory. What does a variable mean? What does a constant mean? We don't even know that what it means. We hear that and then, okay, fine, that's something. That was also very refreshing for me. I learned a lot with that. It actually helped me in my business as well. Yeah, calculation and stuff, right? Yeah.
For a year, you said you did it, right?
Yeah, a little more than a year, yeah.
And then per day, it was about 3 hours.
Yeah, 3 hours, yeah.
And what was sort of the frequency of the students that you were getting? Were you teaching like 3, 4 at once?
At once, yeah. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, that kind of batch, yeah.
So individually, how much were you charging per student?
Actually, I didn't even quote. The parents, they paid me like 2,000, 3,000 per student.
But that's like a lot of the job opportunities here.
Yeah.
They're right in front of your face, but you just don't realize it.
And then if you were to do it full time, imagine, that's a perfect example of like starting from zero, right? You're just using your knowledge. You just have to put in some hours to go through those textbooks that you have already studied, and then, like, you can start earning. Yeah.
What was the other investment? So first one was the tuition.
Yeah.
Second one was the odd jobs.
Yeah.
But that wasn't really specified, right? It just was under the category of odd jobs.
Odd jobs, yeah.
Define odd jobs.
Oh, man. there was this spoken word poems, like, AIDS ka organization. Yeah. And then I think back then TAFMA was funding them. So, I knew Teja Meru, and then like we were discussing and all stuff, and then I brought up the idea of like, what if I do a video on this, for awareness? How much would you be willing to pay me? So like, yeah, you have to go out and look for it, right? So like that, And then also, what else? Let me see. I was doing 3D animation, and I did some models for a couple of firms. I didn't get much, but then like 5,000, 10,000, stuff like that. Like I would get, yeah.
Did you feel like you have to charge based on what you feel your time is worth?
This concept does not really work over here. You need to work your way around this, especially since I'm in construction. Let me take an example from that. Especially in Delhi and all, your architectural plan, your structural plan, your doors and windows, there are so many specifications, plumbing, electricity and all that. So if you wanted those kind of plans, then you would have to pay about 5 to 10%. I don't think it goes up to 10%, but then somewhere around 5 plus minus. So if it's a 1 crore project, you get 5 lakhs. If it's 2 crores, you get 10 lakhs, something like that, right? So that's not very applicable over here. Going back to your question of like paying according to how much time you spend, was it? Those kind of concept will need to take some time to get in. So what we do is like, we have to work. We have to,
we gotta eat.
Yeah, gotta eat, right? So if we give that kind of term, people think that we're stealing from them, or it's just a drawing. Why are you charging that much for that? So much thought goes into it, right? So what we came up with was like, we charge a lump sum. With hardware stores, you go to the hardware store and buy all the big things, like the tina, the rod, the balu, the whatever, the big ones, right? Oh man, I think I'm revealing too much. The business guy might kill it. If you find me dead one day, I did not suicide again.
The business Illuminati right here.
So the big items, they will give you a heavy discount. Say for example, you buy a tina house, right? The tina, you're going to bargain for sure, and then they're going to give you a good discount. They might not have a lot of profit. Some might even give you at the base price. Where do they make the money? They make the money from those the nails, the washers, the screws, the door handles, the tower bolts, and the hinges. Check the profit margin, right? Tinas and all, you might get about like, I don't know, but then 10%, 5%, 8%, 12% off the total MRP. If I were to sell it to you for like 100 rupees, then I would get a profit of say 10 rupees, right? So maybe that's a 10% margin, right? Now with all those smaller things, now we see that, this is a small thing, why I don't need to bargain on this, but then it adds up. The smaller things, their profit margin is like 200-300% off. Yeah.
Really? So that's the secret?
Oh, man, I don't feel comfortable saying this. Yeah, but then yeah. Okay, just give you one more example, like Vishal, right? I mean, I think this is a pretty open secret, so I'm just gonna say it. They have items all around, right? Everywhere you go.
Just like random items too.
Random items, yeah. So your eyes is always like looking at something or the other, right? Same principle with the hard resource as well. Like the most essential items, for example, cooking oil or the washing powder, surf and all that stuff. They don't have a lot of margins there. But then the things that you see on the sites, and then when you check out, there are like offers and stuff, the small items. Yeah, that's where the profit is.
That makes sense. It's the same thing with the Walmarts, the big, the Costco, the Tesco. They do the same thing. Is that all your essential items, they'll put it in the back because they know
they
that
want you to.
They want you to walk around each of the aisles. And as you buy your essentials, you come in, it's like, oh man, maybe I do want fried chicken. Oh man, like maybe I do need like a new scrubber. So by the time you've come to the checkout line, you've doubled your expense.
Yes.
So it is a great
way. That's how they
way.
get you. Yeah. They don't have openings usually. They don't have windows and all. So that you don't have the perception of time. They want you to spend more time over there. Stuff like that.
Yeah, that's the same thing with casinos.
Yeah. Stuff like that, yeah.
And they make it sort of like a labyrinth as well to make it hard for you to find the exit.
Yes.
And even the colors that they use, it engages the customer to bet more money or to gamble more.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting.
Those are all intentional, yeah.
I mean, back in the old days where they had like picture films, they would have like one frame. When you're at a cinema or a theater, like this is like in the 1950s, they would have like a one frame advertisement of like Coca-Cola. Your eyes wouldn't see it, but your brain would. And so this subconscious marketing would like push into the back of your mind. So it is it's very effective.
It is. It's all targeted marketing, right? I mean, they have been doing this for such a long time. They have enough data to know what you want, what you're going to buy, You put in your age, your name, and where you're from, what job you're doing and stuff like that. Everything. They have everything. So based on that, they make a what would be the word?
Like a curated set of options for you.
Yeah. They know exactly how much you're going to spend, whether you're going to cancel, whether you're going to go for business class or economical class, how long you're going to travel, all that. They take all that data. It's very important, it's business is very
That's crazy. Like when you think more about it, like no wonder some people put tape over their webcams, like on their laptop.
Yeah, I do that. I did that.
You do that?
Yeah. I use two laptops. Yeah. So like on both, there's a tab on the camera, right? And then every so often I would just check the camera whether it's like in the right place.
Well, I mean, we've seen it before. We've seen how people have reported that they were having a conversation in the other room and they're maybe talking about a baby. They open up their phone and there's an advertisement for that. They're listening.
Yeah, they are. Nothing is free, right? You make a Google account, you're using Google Maps for free, but then you're selling your data to use that, right? So that's how they can like determine how much traffic is going to it will be in a certain area and how much time you're going to take from that point to that point, one point to the other, stuff like that. So yeah.
Well, it's also very interesting when we go back and you mentioned that you did a little bit of soul searching and you did it in New Delhi. Yeah. The rape capital of our country. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Yeah. It's a joke, guys.
Right. Yeah, so I was there with the excuse of like preparing for my master's, like in animation, right? I was lying to myself anyway, so I didn't really know what I wanted to do in my life. I'm not a specialist, and that's the problem. Like if you're a specialist, you study your MBBS, you become a doctor, or you become an engineer. So I like to experiment on a lot of things. I don't just want to like dwell in just one area, which is why like I have so many interests. So many interests. What do I do? Which one do I pick? And then I had to get real with myself as well. Like I mean, you have all these interests, but then what's going to make sense in terms of like finance as well. Anyway, how am I going to eat basically? So. Yeah, so there was a time I took to like just think about, all that.
So within that point of time, I would assume that you were essentially, if you had 100 ideas, you're trying to bring it down to like 10 or 5.
Yeah, sort of, yeah.
So what were sort of the ideas that you had that now that you look back and you're like, oh man, like that was not feasible at all, or that wasn't going to go anywhere? Or do you feel like those 100 ideas could have been achievable if you just had the capital?
Yeah, I mean, I don't just let go of my ideas. Okay, so like I write them down. In fact, I have a book where I write all my ideas and stuff, so that like maybe in the future when the opportunity presents itself, then maybe I can work on it. But now is not the right time. The finance, it has to make sense. So why not be a specialist for a little while, and then once you make that capital, like you can do whatever you want. But then, obviously I did not learn that lesson. I just because I made that decision, I did do a lot of experimenting, and then lost a lot of money, Yeah. And then I wanted to test a theory. What is it called? Law of
diminishing returns?
No. Basically, it says that, like out of 10 people, if you approach all 10, you're going to get one. That's the probability, right? I would visit like shops and all. And then like in a day, I would visit like 30 to 40 shops. Like so pharmacies, clinics, grocery stores, hospitals, schools, colleges.
And what were your products that you were offering?
Okay. Those were cleaning sanitary products, floor cleaners, the window cleaners, the sprays, soap, dishwashers. I think we had a 14, I was just calculating overall, 14% success rate out of like the 20, 30 shops that I visited. So it just goes to prove out that, if you go look out for it, there's always opportunity there. That's one thing that I will be speaking about as well.
How much of that is probability, meaning just asking? And how much of that is equated to human ingenuity, personality traits, whether you're a good negotiator, whether people trust you with your product?
If you have all those qualities, then it'll obviously increases your chance of sale, right? So
did it increase yours or did it decrease it?
Initially, I didn't know what I was doing, right? So I didn't really get a lot of sales. But then I came back, reflected, chalked down some strategies that I would like try the next day. And so, that's how it went.
So you could argue that if you are already a charismatic person, if you already are a great seller, confident, you're confident in your product, that 14% could almost double and triple.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So a lot of it has to do with you as a person,
yes.
The successibility of it.
And then what? I would encourage a lot of people like starting you go into sales. I mean, that's brutal. Like it teaches you a lot, really.
It humbles you.
Yeah, it humbles you. It humbles you down,
When I was a window cleaner, we only had like 3 people on my manager's payroll. So it would just be the 3 of us recycling around each other, going to like different job sites. So we didn't really have anyone else doing the marketing for us. So we had to do it ourselves. And we did what was called cold calling and cold marketing. Yeah. Oh my God. You're basically on your hands and knees begging. Right, That's all it is.
Right. Yeah.
So the manager would just give you a list of numbers. And these people were just previous clients from the last year. And then you would call them again and think, hey, this is Jonathan. I'm from College Pro Window Cleaning. We had your services last year. I think the worst one was whenever we do a site, a neighborhood, we do a house, our manager would be like, okay, now go to each house, on the next house, and the next house after that, knock on the door and ask if they want cleaning services. I'm like, oh my God, like I don't want to do that. But you had to do it. And he would pay us. Every number that we would get to sign up, we'd get paid $8. Oh. So, I mean, it was a good incentive,
nice.
But the shame was there.
Initially, and then you grow thick skin. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Even over here, when I wasn't doing this, when I go to the shop, I'm the dada, right? And now when I go to sell, they're the dada. Yeah.
That's great. So this distribution center, the one that you made the vlog about, so that's over now. Like you're done with that experiment.
Yeah, we're done with that. Yeah.
How successful has it been?
I did make a profit out of it, yes. But then the game is the bucky.
Is that what it is?
Yes. I don't know about America, but then over here, like without bucky, you cannot run a business. That's how it is. Everyone owes someone, something. Yeah.
There's no way you're getting paid back, right? Like 60 to 70% of the time, there's no way you're getting paid back.
Yeah, we're trying. I mean, in that 1 year, we made about 1.5 like something in profit. Yeah,
minus expenses.
Yeah. Minus expenses, right. We bought 2 scooties with that. Some of it is still stuck in bucky, even now. Yeah. So we're collecting them even now. So, thinking about it, like, man, this is...
That's a big problem here.
Yeah, it's a very big problem, yeah.
And most of the time, it's a very close relative or even a closer friend.
Yeah.
For them, when you give them the money, you just have to assume that you're never going to get paid back. You just have to assume, like, it's gone now.
Right.
And the funny thing is, it's not like these people can't pay me back.
Right.
Like they got money for it.
Yes.
But they just don't.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm trying to understand, where does this mentality come from? Like, you've been here way longer than I have, so you understand the culture around it. But the funny thing to me is that when you give someone that money, you feel shy to ask that money from them, even though it's your own money.
Yeah, I know.
And then that same friend the next day talks to you and acts as if everything's okay.
Yeah, very normal.
So I'm trying to understand, piece this psychology in my head.
So it's not a concept that I can trace the origin to, but that has been how it is ever since my childhood. I've seen this habit. Forget about money, even things, your shoes, your clothes, your stuff like that. They borrow and then they don't return it to you. Especially pen drives.
Oh yeah, back in the day, right? Because you'd have a crap ton of games in there, right?
So yeah,
or porn.
Whichever. Yeah.
Of course, I'm speaking generally.
So yeah, that's a trend that's been going on. But then in a way, it also filters the kind of person that they are. Right? So
exactly.
With money, you can filter at least 90% of the population. So
I think even people say money reveals who you are.
Yeah. Starting with nothing, start from the bottom. Now we're here. Okay, starting with nothing, and then you finally have 1 crore, and then that sort of makes you a little ambitious, and then you tend to make a lot of stupid decisions as well, which is what I have done.
What about confidence-wise? Did you walk a bit straighter? Was your chest puffed up a little bit? Something like that?
I don't know if you'd believe me, but no, not really, because I don't want to hoard money. I want to have enough money to do the things that I want to do, and those are experimenting on different things and stuff, right? So if I have that, then whether it be 1 crore or 1,000 crore or 10,000 crore, the numbers, it doesn't really matter. I need to have the ability to do what I want to do.
Well, yeah, you do have that kind of entrepreneurial mindset. Even as I was talking to you, even on your way here, you don't really invest in extravagant personal things at all.
Oh no. These days, I'm going a little overboard with cafes and restaurants, a little bit, just a little bit, not to the extent where it's harmful. But then, yeah, I am noticing that, so I need to really dial that down. And so, yeah, that's one thing. And other than let me see, I bought a guitar and a electric drum. So other than that, I don't think I've invested in anything else. Yeah.
You invest in experiences rather than material things. So you're not a fan of cars, watches?
No, for me, it's practicality, how practical that is. Me and my friend who is also an entrepreneur, we were just discussing, people talk about all this, the Mercedes-Benz, the Fortuner, the Ford Endeavor, and all this stuff, It doesn't interest us, let's talk about Tata Mobile and dumpers and those excavators and all that. That's where we get excited, Those are expensive stuff as well, right? So, yeah, because that's something we can use in our work, right? So, yeah.
Where did you lose that sense of, I don't care what people think about me?
After I started the YouTube channel, because before I started, I just had to sit down and then look at the mirror and then tell myself, you're gonna get a lot of criticisms. Not everyone's gonna agree with what you say, stuff, but then you need to be okay with it. And then you're gonna be revealing a big part of your life that most people keep private. So yeah, so
your finance.
Yeah, finance as well. So you need to be okay with that. And then
I don't think you get a lot of criticism though. Mostly it's positive.
Maximum is positive for now. Hopefully, yeah.
And so now you've done this distribution system.
Yep.
Okay. It's done. It's over with. You made a profit of 1.5 lakhs.
Yeah. So I start with 10x of the initial capital, which will be 30 lakhs.
So you already passed that then?
Yeah, I already passed that. Yeah. And yeah, in fact, a little more much more than that. So 100x is my ultimate goal for this phase. For this stage. Yeah.
And what's the time span now? It's been a year, right?
It's been 2 years. Yeah, 2 years. So I'm a little not very happy with the progress that I've made, because in between work, you keep running around, and then you kind of, sometimes I also forget. I get a little laid back, and then yeah.
And is this still using the same businesses, or you're always bouncing from one business to another?
I'll be trying so many different ideas. Yeah, but then.
one or two because I'm interested. I'm intrigued.
All right, fine. E-com is one, but then right now I don't really have the time to do this.
Okay, so e-com selling what, beauty products, skincare? Because I know skincare is booming right now.
Should I say this? Let's leave that for our next podcast. Yeah. I don't reveal too much. I need hooks in my video. Come on.
Okay, how about this? Just say it. I'll blur it out. Nothing.
Really? All right.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought that market was already saturated.
Yeah, no, it's not. No, I have a plan to like how to go around that there. So.
Cut me a deal.
Yeah.
So, okay, that's great. So how long approximately do you think to get to this 100 times?
So as fast as possible. I don't really want to put a timeline on this. I should try to do this within a year. Yeah. That's
within
a
year.
That's what I will plan.
100 times it within this year.
Yeah. That's what I'll try.
Wow. And that's, okay, wait, just so I can get this correct. That's from all your businesses, whether it's the distribution, that.
I could add more as well. If you.
So you're accumulating all that and that goes into the 100x CR. Okay. Because what I was thinking was that sole business would generate the 100
Yeah,
times.
I mean, that would be a much cooler story to tell. But but that's going to take too long. So, I mean, if I were just starting, I mean, I think that's how I would like do it. So, yeah.
This is what I would be curious about.
Yeah.
How do you get this entrepreneurial eye to find this demand in places? Is it just having the right connections for the average person? Let's say graduated with a degree in English. How would they get this?
When you try to prove a concept and then you prove it, people will see what kind of advantages you have. Now, see, for example, like in real estate and constructions, obviously I have my engineering background, and that's what that's the advantage that I have, to a certain extent. So people will say, oh, that guy had his background, so he had the advantage and stuff. So you have your own background, you have your own advantages that I don't have. It's all different for different people, right? So you have to figure out what your advantages are, and that's something that cannot be taught to you. I don't think having a course on entrepreneurship would ever make sense. It's not something that can be taught. There's no set formula for it, so you need to come up with your own unique formulas for that.
So would a good start just be venturing outside of the state and just getting new experiences?
Yeah, sure. Do whatever comes to your mind, your initial thought, right? Just forget about like what people think, or what are the risks and stuff, like take a train right now to Burma and then, try exploring something. I don't know, just go do it. I mean, that's the step you need to take, I think. If you don't know anything about, say, solar energy, then you can, what's the first step you do? I mean, you can't just be sitting at home and then waiting for that opportunity to come to you, right? First thing, what's the thing? The simplest thing, Google it, fine. Do some research, study it. The batteries and all, they all come from China. And then, you can just assemble it and then you can sell it to departments, sell it to like private homes and stuff like that. It's very cheap actually. For a start, you just go with whatever, even if it's like so stupid, you just do it. Doing it, Nike, just do it. That's the thing, that's it. That's the whole secret, I think. The secret is there's no secret. Yeah.
Well, I think that's been the topic of the conversation that we've had today is experiment.
Yeah.
Like you don't know until you do it.
Yeah.
And if anyone tells you otherwise, they probably don't know themselves and they're just hesitant to take that step. And like you said, as of right now, we're always in that ideation phase. Right? We're just thinking, sure, we have some brilliant ideas that could potentially work, but it's that execution phase, that step that we're not taking.
Yeah. If you want an advice from me, then, I would advise you to avoid the lazy, negative intellectuals that you would come across. These are people that will come up with like way better ideas than you, but then they will always lack execution. You see people who are not very self-conscious and then they don't really care about what people think. They just do things to an extent, maybe not the world class, but then to an extent they are successful. So you see that in business, in musicians, talents. Yeah.
At the end of the day, if you want to get into this line of business, we talked about this before, you need to have thick skin. In order to have thick skin is that you need to be able to be proactive in what you say. And yet you have to stand on your confidence.
Right.
There's actually one last thing that I want to get to.
Yeah, sure.
And this is something that I think what I took away from one of your videos, and you put a strong line on this. You said, don't lie, be honest. Even if it's a white lie, it's still a lie. Why did you put that message? It's a very important message, but you emphasize that.
It compromises your values. Things that might seem very significant, like subconsciously you're building the habit. You're going to lie to yourself as well, and then you wouldn't be able to trust yourself as well. And that's how like people also get into depression because of that. When I say lie, it's also like keeping your word. This is a big problem that I find over here. The term is kali porsu lok pao. What does it mean, right? What is it? Kali porsu lok pao. Yeah, we're not going to meet. Why even say that? Why do you even want to say that? Lying also extends to the point of keeping your timing. Like if we say we meet at this time, we meet at this time. Or if we say we're going to do this, we're going to do this. So it all extends to those things as well. So I'd like to quote Tony Montana from Scarface. It's like he gets into this drug deal, and then there's this big supplier that he gets in contact with, and then that's where he comes up with the line, all I have in this world are my words and my balls, and I break him for nobody, Yeah.
Right, I remember that scene. Yeah. They ended up killing his associate. Yeah. Right next to it.
That was the example he was trying to set, right? Yeah.
And that's crazy because in that particular part, in that particular time, he had nothing. He really had only his words and his balls, and he was trying to play it off like he had something. So I think in a way, fake it till you make it.
Yeah, that also worked. Yeah. I mean, that's what we all do, right? To start with, to a certain extent at least, yeah.
Right. Because I think like the impression that I got when I talked to you, I'm like, damn, if I want to be as successful or if I want to get even to the remotely to the level of someone like Imti, do I have to be working Monday through Sunday, 8 hours a day?
No, you don't have to. It's a choice I made for myself, so you don't have to. I mean, you can be way smarter than me and then try to optimize things. A lot of things can be done. You can start a company with outsourcing things, and then you don't even have to be looking after you have to put your input obviously, but then you can hire managers, you can hire people to do the work for you. So as long as you find the loophole and then you can create the market. So yeah.
Hey man.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
It's been a blast, man.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. It's my dad's office.
All right.